Reports suggest that P. Diddy has found some unlikely allies inside the Metropolitan Detention Center in D.C. in Brooklyn, where he's been held since September 16th. Fellow inmates have reportedly been taking care of his cell, keeping it spotless, and even making his bed. In addition, they have been preparing snacks for him and allowing him to use their phone accounts for calls. According to former MDC Deputy Warden Dr. D. Wayne Hendrick, Diddy's special treatment inside the jail isn't surprising given his celebrity status. Despite being behind bars for over 2 months, the 55-year-old music mogul, whose real name is Sean Combs, has faced difficulties in securing release. His legal team has unsuccessfully requested both a transfer from MDC and his release on bond. They proposed a $50,000 bond, 24-hour security, a GPS monitor, and restricted contact with women, but these requests have been repeatedly denied. For now, MCC remains his home as he faces federal charges including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion.
Prosecutors allege he's the kingpin in a decades-old sex trafficking scheme in which he drugged victims, sexually assaulted them, and recorded it all.
The term freak-offs, which prosecutors describe as elaborate, orchestrated sex performances, has become central to the case against P. Diddy. These performances, often directed, recorded, and involving masturbation, were initially used by Diddy as blackmail to silence survivors. However, they are now being used as evidence of his involvement in federal offenses. After his arrest in New York, Diddy was booked at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, where his attorney, Mark Egg Neff, immediately raised concerns about the jail's conditions. AXE highlighted serious issues at MDC, including violence, overcrowding, and staffing shortages. He also pointed to alarming statistics. 2 inmates have been killed at MDC since June, and at least 4 have died by suicide in the past 3 years. Over the last 5 years, 6 staff members have been charged with crimes. Despite these issues, it's common for defendants to be held at MDC while awaiting trial in either Manhattan or Brooklyn. The facility has housed other high-profile inmates such as R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried, who is currently there. Protection during ongoing investigations, a designation both men share. This definement both biggest find or risks and domestic violence for those who require special protection during ongoing investigations, a designation both men share, been protected during ongoing investigations, a designation. Both being defending classified test models, students of Disney School, New York, and Clinton County, Jester Admin, California, began their studies.
For some time, that's where Diddy was, the SHU, or the Secure Housing Unit. But in recent days, he's been moved to general population, and that's where these new reports come from.
Diddy is alleged to have formed close relationships with fellow inmates at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, with some reportedly helping him with tasks such as making his bed and cleaning his cell. Prosecutors claim that Diddy is also using the phone accounts of other inmates to circumvent monitoring. Aware that his own phone line is being tapped, Diddy allegedly uses others' lines in an attempt to keep his conversations private. Court documents reveal that Diddy has been involved in unauthorized 3-way calls, sending hundreds of text messages, some of which were sent to individuals on his no-contact list. The government further accuses Diddy of trying to influence witness testimony and manipulate the jury pool from behind bars. Prosecutors assert that Diddy has orchestrated social media campaigns aimed at tainting the jury pool, leaked materials he believes could benefit his case, and contacted witnesses through third parties. After spending several weeks at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, it was determined that P. Diddy could be moved to a general population unit. Based on my experience at the facility several years ago, MDC has 2 main buildings, East and West. These buildings house a mix of individuals, ranging from high-security detainees to those facing less severe charges. The population includes former law enforcement officers, individuals who may have been compromised, and sex offenders. In cases like this, High-profile inmates, such as Diddy, are often housed with former law enforcement officers who are facing charges or with sex offenders. This arrangement tends to reduce jailhouse politics and minimizes the risk of harm, as these groups typically pose less of a threat to each other. From what I understand, Diddy is currently in the West Building, which is an open bay unit rather than individual cells. These units are more dormitory style and less segregated with minimal separation between inmates.
Typically, there's your low-level offenders, typically possible sex offenders, alleged sex offenders, as well as former law enforcement who are facing charges. So I'm sure that's probably where he's being housed right now.
We're also getting some interesting reports since he's been moved to this area. One of the reports or tips we got is that other inmates are actually making Diddy's bed for him. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, that's not necessarily uncommon, especially for someone of his celebrity status, especially if he's being housed with individuals that aren't a threat.
It seems that some of Diddy's fellow inmates may be doing him favors, such as cooking food for him or even washing his clothes. While microwaves aren't available in the unit, inmates can use hot water to prepare processed foods bought from the commissary, and there are ice machines available as well. Given these conditions, it's not surprising that some inmates may be cooking meals for him or offering other services. As for why these inmates would go out of their way to assist Diddy, it likely comes down to his celebrity status. Some may have admired his music over the years, while others might see it as an opportunity to gain favor with a high-profile individual. Inmates often hope that someone like Diddy, with his connections and influence, might do them a favor in the future, whether it's helping with contacts or offering assistance after their time at the detention center.
I'm not surprised by that because I've also seen other high-profile inmates, not necessarily someone as famous as Mr. Combs, but some people with what we call street credibility, whose name is.
He's well known in various communities across the country, and many people are drawn to that kind of energy. They'd want to be around him because of his popularity and the influence he carries.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
It's not just making the bed and making him meals or snacks, though. Prosecutors actually say that P. Diddy has paid off some of these other inmates so that he can use their phone accounts. Because obviously, if he's using his own account, it could be monitored, it would be recorded likely. So if he's using other people's accounts, maybe the prosecutors wouldn't be able to hear what he was saying. What do you make of that? Do you think that's even possible?
Yes, and again, that's not an uncommon practice in jails and prisons across the country. Basically, it's a form of using the phones to make a three-way call.
In the federal system, all inmate calls are recorded, but each inmate is assigned a specific PAC number for their phone account. Calls are linked to voice recognition, so when an inmate uses their PAC number to place a call, their voice is recognized. If they want to contact someone not on their contact list, they can ask another inmate to make a three-way call. Once the other person is on the line, the inmate, like Mr. Combs, can join the conversation. However, I don't fully understand why Mr. Combs is using this strategy, especially since all calls are monitored and recorded. While it's clear he's trying to avoid having his conversations recorded, he should be aware that jail staff and the prosecution will still be able to track who is making the calls. So, it seems like an ineffective method to evade monitoring, even though I understand the reasoning behind it.